Take 4 jilted women, throw in a video camera and say, action. It's how a group of wronged women turned the tables on their cheater, who thought the more the merrier, especially when it came to girlfriends. Here's Nick Watt.
Hello.
This is the moment caught on camera when a love rat and con man named Simon Reed met his match, confronted by 4 audacious women, 4 of the who knows how many ladies he's lied to, cheated on, taken for a ride. A friend called Paul filmed the face-off and provided a bit of muscle in case things got ugly.
I think you've got something explaining to do. Well, go on then, get on with it.
He does, but first, let us explain what led to this extraordinary showdown in a living room in England.
I first met Simon in June of 2008, because I'm kind of fond of Englishmen. I'm kind of an Anglophile.
That's Andy, a massage therapist from Minnesota and the glue that binds our story together. Simon met Andy on an internet dating site and told her he owned a construction company.
By the time our second date rolled around, I was pretty excited to see him.
And he lived up to expectations?
He packed a picnic basket, we went to the park, flowers, you know, we had wine and cheese and fruit and all that.
Andy and Simon even talked marriage. Then, one day, Simon just vanished. Fled back to England, leaving Andy bewildered. Back home, he soon hooked up with Joe, who got a very different version of Simon Reed's life story.
With me, he was an international speed climber, and he was setting up his own business.
He borrowed nearly $30,000 from Joe for the alleged business and never paid her back.
And what was he doing with the money you gave?
Spending it on June.
June, of course, was another girlfriend, part of the welcoming committee that night. A little further down the overlapping line of relationships, meet Nicola, who also met Simon online.
The dates were quite erratic because he was an international businessman, you see.
Oh, of course.
And he was an account manager.
Simon Reed was whatever he thought a woman wanted him to be, a devastating Casanova in a chameleon's skin.
It was really weird though, because I missed Simon. When I thought about it rationally, it's like, what do I even miss? I mean, the Simon that I knew didn't really exist.
We gathered our Simon Reed survivors together in New York for a chat about the dastardly man they have in common.
One of his initial stories was that he'd had a huge stroke and he'd learnt to walk and talk again.
They were all initially drawn to his beautiful teeth. Not a trait the English are famed for. Each would eventually find out those teeth are also false.
He told me he had been in an explosion when he was in the army and his teeth had knocked out.
He told me they were veneers. He told me he lost them playing ice hockey.
I spoke to his wife about the teeth and she said, yeah, that's a bit of a sore point with me. She said, I bought him those.
Oh yes, did we mention Simon had a wife? She called Andy after Simon disappeared, and turns out they only live a few miles apart. Simon would tell his wife he was working on a construction site overnight and spend that night with Andy, and vice versa. Andy had heard enough.
I decided to take matters into my own laptop.
Andy wrote a searing posting about Simon on her blog. According to his wife, I ain't the first, she wrote. I am but one in a long parade of girlfriends he's had since they married 7 years ago. Joe and Nicola stumbled upon the blog while Googling Simon, trying to find out just how deep his lies went.
And I nearly fell on the floor. It was like, yeah. And she was calling him the Antichrist, and I was like, oh my God.
We say like he was different people for different people.
Did he ever get your name wrong?
He didn't tend to use my name. He would call me honey, cutie, sweetie, something like that.
So why did he do this? Was it the money?
I don't go out with people for the money.
Then perhaps it was for the sex.
But you seem to be saying also that he wasn't that interested in sex.
No.
He wasn't with me either.
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
Well, there you go. Who's the favourite over here?
Joe discovered the truth when she saw a recurring number on his phone bill and dialed. It was Simon's dad's house. Simon had, of course, told Joe that his dad was dead.
He said he's a pathological liar.
Simon's own father said that.
Yeah.
I suppose I've been like this for years. Lying is just it's much easier than whatever the truth is for me.
He lives in a fantasy land, and it's nicer than the real world, I suppose, for him.
But Simon's fantasy world was about to implode.
He needs to be stopped, and we all agreed.
They decided to confront Simon, the love rat, with the help of Laura, Simon's latest paramour. So, 48 hours after Laura thought Simon was her soulmate that they would marry, she's staging a sting in her living room, inviting him round supposedly for a quiet night in. The stage is set poised to trap their love rat.
So we're all in the house getting almost a little bit giggly hysterical, aren't we, at this point?
Surreal.
I hadn't seen him.
I'm sorry to everybody, I just...
For somebody who's so eloquent with that you comes out with, you've got very little to say, haven't you?
This confrontation, I mean, he sounds like he kind of just rolled over.
He had
did.
to. We locked all the doors.
But he never asked to leave.
I defrauded you out of this money. I mean, are the police coming?
Oh yes. Simon Reed was sentenced to 30 months in jail for fraud for that money he borrowed from Joe under, of course, false pretenses. But this story may not be over.
I don't really know what the truth is for me anymore. And I know it's wrong when I'm doing it. I just don't seem to stop myself.
Do you think he'll do this again?
Definitely.
And the women, well, drinking champagne in New York and laughing about it.
Do you still believe in romance?
Oh yeah, I still like English guys.
What advice would you give to somebody who meets a lovely chap called Simon Reed?
Run away.
Fast.
Yes. run for the hills. Cheers.
Cheers.
To Simon.
To Simon Reed.
Ladies, take that as a public service announcement from these brave women and the good people here at 2020.